Welcome, everyone. Excuse me. Thank you for coming tonight to Winton State School Address. My name is Karina Denny, and I'm the Communication Coordinator for the district. I'd like to take a moment to thank our student ambassadors for breaking from their homework this evening and coming out to welcome our community to this important event. They always do a wonderful job, so thank you so much. Before our superintendent takes the floor, I'd like to introduce someone who is a true advocate for education by her words and, more importantly, her actions. She consistently demonstrates her dedication to the students, parents, staff, and community of Winton City Schools. It is my privilege to introduce our Board of Education President, Mrs. Jessica Miranda. Good evening. Thank you all for being here this evening. This shows true dedication to your community and in turn our school system, so we thank you for your partnership. I have the pleasure of introducing our superintendent, a man who has been leading by example ever since he walked through our doors. I have much respect for him, and I hope you enjoy his presentation tonight because it is powerful. So, without further ado, everyone please help me welcome Superintendent Anthony G. Smith.
Good evening. I wasn't nervous before until I saw the superintendent from Scarlet Oaks here. So, Mr. Snyder, thank you for coming. Appreciate it. How many of you went to the football game last Friday? So there's a challenge, and it's going to take Mr. Denny, the business manager, and Mr. Martin, the high school principal. We're going to try to sneak a state of the schools in a football game and see what that crowd looks like, because it had to be thousands of people there. So we'll try to trade it and see what happens next time. All right, here we go. Where are we now? One of the most essential parts of our school is how do we build our programs? And we're building our program through preschool. Preschools have become more active and more innovative than they've ever been. So we're going to become active learners, develop creative problem solving, and they're going to score better on the kindergarten readiness assessment test. Building preschool is going to really launch our district in becoming a world-class leader in education, so we're excited about the preschool opportunities for next year. We were able to receive an expansion grant. 15 of our families are able to use and attend preschool for free. If we could get the funding to make that 30 families in the future or 200 families in the future, all of our children would get the opportunity to attend preschool at no cost. And think about it. Some of our families that are the most needy are the ones that need to have their children in school. And sometimes cost gets in the way. So this is how our preschools work. If you attend a preschool other than Winton Woods, the score is a 19. State average, 19. Winton Woods preschool is a 22. So we know attending our schools make a difference. So here's a nice promotional video. So we've talked about preschool, and now we're going to launch into kindergarten, and why AllDay Kindergarten is very, very important to our district.
Welcome to AllDay Kindergarten at Winton City Schools, a place where young warriors will learn, laugh, play, and grow. Winton City Schools successfully launched its AllDay Kindergarten program in 2012 to provide a full day of academic instruction for our younger students. This gives teachers more opportunities to work in small group settings and one-on-one with each student. Our goal is to provide instruction at each child's level so that individual learning needs are met. Kindergarten is also a time to reinforce social skills like sharing and working together, as some of our younger learners are in the classroom setting for the first time. Students in our kindergarten classrooms are focused all day. Teachers use mini lessons throughout the day to explain a concept or activity, giving students their first introduction to project-based learning. Literacy centers reinforce reading and writing skills with an emphasis on both phonics and sight words. Daily journaling lets students express themselves by generating their own writing topics. Math is introduced through games, classroom discussions, and calendar activities as students count, sort, find patterns, and read books that explore math concepts. Each kindergarten classroom is equipped with 5 computer tablets to reinforce technology skills through math and phonics games. Students participate in specials, either art, music, gym, or computer lab, every day for 50 minutes. And yes, there is still time to play at recess and rest time after lunch. At Winton Woods City Schools, we realize the importance of this foundational year. With the addition of AllDay Kindergarten, we have seen over 98% of our students promoted to first grade. And students who have attended preschool at Winton Woods Early Childhood Center score higher on kindergarten assessment, with a score of 22 than that of the state average of 19. The learning taking place in our kindergarten classrooms reinforces and strengthens academic success and builds a strong educational foundation for Ohio's third grade reading guarantee. Not all districts are able to provide this educational opportunity, which doubles the learning hours over students in a half-day setting. Teachers are able to offer enrichment to students exceeding grade level expectations and early intervention for those who may be challenged in certain areas. This intervention is key to ensuring that all students are successful learners. Parents can be assured that their children will be loved and cared for by our kindergarten teachers and will enter first grade with confidence, independence, and the skills necessary to be lifelong learners. Students attending AllDay Kindergarten in Winton Woods City Schools join students throughout the district in achieving their highest potential. They are warriors making a difference. Every student, every day.
All right, years ago, kindergarten was you play, you have a snack, you take a nap. Now, you learn, and you learn some more. Because the state is saying that in order for your children to be better prepared for the future, they must be prepared to accept the challenges of 21st century learning. So that's our goal. So these are the things that happen with AllDay Kindergarten. More in-depth lessons, help students master curriculum concepts, teach phonetic awareness, practice guided math and reading every day. And it also teaches children how to have better relationships. If we can make sure that our children get along, I think they'll be absolutely incredible. Can you turn it up a little bit? The mic. Yes. We had the fortunate opportunity to create something that had never been created in Winton Woods before, and it was Kindergarten Jumpstart. Having new children come to our district, we wanted them to be acclimated the first day. And we wanted to make sure that our parents were acclimated the first day. So I think the children were okay. The parents left kind of in tears, but the children were absolutely, Mom, go on, I've got this. I'm in kindergarten now, I can take care of it. That was one of the most incredible experiences that I'd ever seen. Number one, they got to meet their teachers. Number two, they met their principals, they had tours, and they had a nice bus ride so that they would know how this whole process called school worked. It was a very, very rewarding experience, and thank you, Ms. Denny, and also Ms. Darcy for creating that. One of the lessons that we learned is talking with one of the secretaries in the building. She said, Superintendent, you need to have a first grade jump start and a second grade jump start because we have new families coming to our communities from time to time, and they need to be acclimated as well. So we'll think about that for the future. Many people came tonight to hear, what are your scores, Superintendent Smith? How is the district doing? Well, if you went to a presentation of State of the Schools in any part of the state where there are 600 superintendents, they would tell you the same thing. Right now, we don't know what our scores are going to be, but we do know what our ACT composite is. Our ACT composite has risen over the years, and right now it's a 19.29. Having a meeting today with the executive team, they asked a question, what do we want it to look like in the future? And so we all voted. I think it was a vote. But we have a goal where we want our composite score to be at a minimum of a 22 next year. And with the support of the community, we believe we can make that happen. The higher the ACT score, the more children get to college. Guess what? It's less of a financial burden to families. Here's one of the pieces to the puzzle of how we're going to make that happen. This is a college and career readiness standard reading. And one of the things, I don't know if you will be able to see it, but I'll give you just a glimpse of what it looks like. So it says, the first bar says, locate basic facts, names, dates, clearly stated in a passage. Every school in every region does that. We all do it. And in some cases, that's where we stop. But if you look at the standard on how you can get a 33 to a 36 on the ACT, it says locate and interpret minor or subtle stated details in complex passages. We have to give our kids more complex passages so they can do better with complex texts. See, the test is going to keep being rigorous. We have to meet the challenges of what the test indicators say. And if we work to a level where it's the score of 13 to 15, that's where our kids will land. If we work towards a score of a 33 and 36, that's where our children will land. It's a proven fact. If you give me more, I will be able to produce more. So the highest score on the ACT is what? 36. Is that the goal? Yes, it has to be. If my children are scoring in the 30s on an ACT, are they going to go to college for free? Yes. Would people be knocking on the door of Winton Woods asking, can I have your children? Yes. And my children will be able to say, let me think about it, maybe I want to go somewhere different. They'll be able to make the choice. We did something really different at our last awards program with our top 16 scholars. I have to tell you, the first time I saw it, I was a little concerned. Students were saying, I got accepted, I applied to UC, I got accepted to UC, I'm going to UC. This time it was different. I got accepted to UC, Moorhead, Ohio State, Eastern Michigan, etc., and I'm choosing the one that's best for me as opposed to the university choosing them. That's the difference. So we know we're making the mark. This is what the ACT measures. English, math, reading, science, writing is optional. And why am I mentioning the option of writing? Because writing is optional. But what we noticed on our last assessments, and thank you, Dr. Holden and your team, we noticed that the kids are not using writing as an option, they're using writing as a mandatory piece. All of the students are saying, I must write in order to be successful on this test. That's a different mindset. It's a different attitude that says, usually we don't do more, we do less. But we're encouraging our children, let's do more, and in turn you get a better result. We're also using this great tool called Naviance. How many parents in the audience you want your child to go to college for free? How many of you are just waiting to pay that bill? Okay, all right. So Naviance is a tool. It tells you what does college cost, what do the majors say that I need to know as a free reference of saying this is the information that I have in front of me, and also what ACT score do I need. The other thing, we really encourage our children to participate in activities because universities are looking, how do you get along with other people? How many of you work in an industry that you must work with someone else? And people think that, by and large, people get terminated because they don't have the skills or they don't have the acquired assets. Sometimes people get terminated because they don't get along with other people. Anybody ever seen that in your workplace? I know it's never happened to you, but maybe someone around you. We're also working diligently with project-based learning. This is the tool that using project-based learning, it gives our children an opportunity to say, I know the difference between what real-world applications are like, and I know what I need to be able to do for the future. Real-world applications make a difference. And you can't give me real-world applications at the end of the show because now I'm not equipped to proceed or move forward. So I must be able to understand real-world applications in real time. That's what project-based learning helps our children do. I mentioned this earlier. Test scores for 2014-15, the Ohio Department of Education says they will be out in 16. So if you say, wait a minute, Superintendent, Winton Woods scores should be out, we'll call any other district and they will tell you theirs are not out either. So I know people think they just did it to you. No, not this time. Maybe in other instances they may have done it to me, but not today. There are 600 plus districts in the state of Ohio, and all of them have the same issue. When are the scores coming out? If you notice, there are signs around different sections of our community. We were voted best communities in music education. I was so proud to see the band last Friday night. The other school that I won't name had a good band. We had an awesome band. And it was showcased. One of the things that I really wish we could have been able to do, if it was at our place, I would have mentioned that this was the band that just came back from China. Now, I don't know if the other band ever went, but I know we did. And so one of the things that's very, very interesting, they represent us very, very well in another country. They represented your district well in another country. That's absolutely. These are art, band, choir, and orchestra awards. And have you ever seen a display case, and in the award display case you see trophies from 1929 or 1978? And I'm not saying that that's a bad deal, but when I start looking in a trophy case, I'm looking for something that says 2015. Every one of these trophies was earned at the music at Kings Island, and every one of those trophies are 2015, the year 2015 trophies. These children in the middle school won every competition that you could imagine. So, here's another compelling piece. We have students in courses of band, orchestra, and choir. And if we could really get that percentage score up to 60% in all of these domains, in all of these areas, in all of these schools, think how much prepared our children will be. Remember, there's a direct correlation between doing well in school and having a music opportunity. How many of you ever heard that study? It's a real study. It's a real place. It's a real time. It's a real event. So right now we have 38, 48, 37. If that rose to 60% in every one of our schools, think about how many children would be part of our activities. What would the band look like? We would be able to take the field without moving and be able to go from sideline to sideline, from end zone to end zone. Wouldn't that be an incredible sight? The band starts marching into the stadium and it takes them an hour and a half to get in there. Almost like my last state of the schools, right, Mr. Martin? That's the band visiting China. Exciting time. So, where are we going as a district? All-day preschool. Happy children, learning every day. See, if we give our parents the opportunity for their children to attend our preschool, guess what? They'll stay in our district, they'll grow in our district, they'll learn in our district, they'll come back to our district and be part of our community. That's what we want. That's the message. That's the brand. We want you to come back and be part of our community. So how do we get it there? There's a growth mindset and there's a fixed mindset. In the growth mindset, it gives you indicators that says anything that you put in front of me, I can do. In a fixed mindset, it says it depends on who I was born to. It depends on where I came from. It depends on what I look like. Well, we don't determine what you look like in our district. We take all students. We don't have entrance criteria. We don't have a test. Because you don't take a test to get into our community, do you? So you don't take a test to get into our schools. It's an open door process, but we want you to have the energy that says when we put information in front of you, we want you to absorb that information and learn. Our tagline says to your highest potential. Well, in order for us to get you to the highest potential, we've got to know what your potential is. The fixed mindset says it's closed. Maybe I get it, maybe I don't. But we've developed an educational framework now that says, if I don't get it, this is what we do. When I don't understand something, this is how we fix it. It's not so much where the student has an assessment, they score low, and then we say, hey, it didn't work out. That's not acceptable. Now, if you have some difficulties, we have to figure out what the difficulties are and help you move to the next level. That's our mission, that's our responsibility. That's our charge. It's our job to do that. We can't let you stay behind because you struggled. Now, of course, no one in this room ever struggled educationally. So you don't know what I'm talking about. But maybe one day you'll meet that child. And how would you want that child to be prepared for 21st century learning? If I struggle, you help me and you find out what my issues are. That's mandatory. That's not optional. And when the parents let their children off the bus and they get out of the car, they walk to school, don't you think every parent believes that that's the way the educational system is supposed to work? So if we haven't been selling that, that's what we sell. That's our mission, that's our work, and again, it's not optional. Do I preach this sermon every day? Yes. And I see all the people that are on my executive team shaking their head. He preaches it every day. Do I believe it? Absolutely, I do. So you've seen this before, and where Adam and Jacob come into a school. Adam walks in struggling some. And the proficient line is the green line. Jacob comes in well above proficient. But there is a problem. Adam understands the growth mindset. But remember, here's the tricky part, and schools don't ever want to admit it. Adam didn't do this on his own, and Jacob didn't do this to himself. The system did this. And so we have now become an institutionalized system that says we don't let this happen to Jacob, but we make sure it does happen for Adam. So the next slide will tell you what it's supposed to look like, and that's what it looks like at Winton Woods. Adam became proficient, and Jacob scored off the chart. How many of you know an Adam? How many of you wish you had a Jacob? And many of you do. But it's our mission to make sure Jacob does not digress, that Jacob moves forward and Adam moves forward as well. That's the growth mindset. Before Ms. Denny starts the video, we keep pushing the envelope where you hear the superintendent and you hear other members and you hear board members talking about the same thing. We are not interested in meeting the state standards. The state has to set standards. Every state does. We're interested in exceeding the state standards. You will see why we mention it every chance we get, and this is back to the growth mindset. The growth mindset, it says we exceed standards. We don't meet standards. And you'll see we searched around for a compelling video to capture this idea about growth mindset. So we used a city that you'll be very familiar with, Cincinnati.
A growing number of states are promising to stop promoting students who haven't learned to read by the end of third grade. It's a controversial idea we first reported on 2 years ago. Tonight, special correspondent John Telenko of Learning Matters Television, which produces reports on education for the NewsHour, returned to Ohio to see how that's working.
2 years ago, the city of Cincinnati and others across Ohio faced a major problem. On a national reading test, 60% of fourth graders were failing, a gap that many we spoke with then feared would just grow wider.
We don't teach reading in 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th grade. So if they haven't learned that, they're not going to learn it. And that's just unacceptable.
So 2 years ago, Republican State Senator Peggy Lehner put a wall around fourth grade, passing legislation that promised to hold back any third grader who failed the state's reading test. Ohio called it the third grade reading guarantee.
It's now or never. We're finished with passing kids along that are unable and unprepared to actually reach success at the higher grade levels.
At the outset, third grade teacher Linda Hissett of Carson Elementary in Cincinnati welcomed the guarantee and saw it as a solution.
I have some students who are at a kindergarten level reading, first grade level reading, second grade. I look at it with dismay.
Keep going.
But Carson's principal, Ruthenia Jackson, was wary of the guarantee. Some 40% of her students were in danger of being held back.
The research shows that if you retain children over, it does not help them down the line because they're just getting older in the grade, and then eventually they'll get in high school and they'll just drop out. Who wants to be 17 in ninth grade? Nobody.
No doubt the reading guarantee had raised the stakes considerably for Ohio's 125,000 third graders and their teachers. But how would it all turn out? Would the threat to hold students back spur schools to innovate? Just how many students would make it over the bar? What emerged in the end is a story with both good news and bad news, and we'll tell it in that order.
The result was remarkable. 96% of our third graders passed the test this year.
We returned recently to speak with Senator Lehner, who told us Ohio's results have a simple explanation.
That kind of improvement is incredible. But that only came about because of a lot of hard work, a lot of attention to the importance of reading.
Thank you.
Carson Elementary seemed to be a case in point. Ruthenia Jackson is still principal.
So 2 years ago, you were apprehensive.
Yes.
How do you feel about the reading guarantee today?
Pretty good. It's and that's because we're making some gains.
So today,
Reading scores here had risen 10 points, following changes made across the school. The entire staff had been reassigned to teach individual subjects. That way, the strongest reading teachers could concentrate on that.
All right, Jessray, let's check that vowel before you write. Do that.
Reading specialists were also brought in, with some $13 million Ohio set aside for schools.
Now we have two. One reading specialist works with those kids who we consider non-readers and teaching them phonics.
Chip. Color tiles, please.
The second specialist focuses on kids just on the cusp of passing. For everyone else, local high school students were brought in as volunteer tutors. There were reading workshops for parents. Hundreds of books were sent to homes. And in the end, 94% of Carson's third graders passed Ohio's reading test and were promoted.
all right, keep on reading.
Good news for early supporters of the reading guarantee, like Linda Hissett.
What we've started here is hugely different than how it was prior to 3 years ago. And the focus that they have on the reading and the intensity is just totally different tone.
College.
But how different was it? Hissett's third grade class still had struggling readers,
But
more than a few.
the school was too easy for.
And we found the reading guarantee, which had promised to bring everyone up to grade level, had another side.
To answer if the kids are more prepared, it's very hard because a lot of the kids that we actually educate, a lot of them will leave.
40%, in fact, while another 40% come in, all mid-year. This revolving door, not unusual in urban schools, poses problems for the reading guarantee.
We get non-readers. We will get a third grader who's never heard of a sound, cannot read.
So is it that the reading guarantee, it only works in a bubble?
Right. Exactly true.
You want to share yours, Micaiah?
Was it any better in Carson's fourth grade? Remember, under the guarantee, to get here, students first had to pass a test, prove they were ready. Fourth grade teacher Maria Cleveland.
How many of your kids are actually reading at a fourth grade level?
Probably 50%. The reality is that kids are all over the place. They just aren't ready for some of the things. I mean, kids don't know how to sound out words. They're working on some phonics skills that they never received. It's an eye-opener.
And yet, all of them passed Ohio's reading test, and that could be the bigger problem.
They get to take it multiple times, the same test. They get to take it in the fall. If they don't pass it, they take it again in the spring. If they don't pass it, they take it again in the summer, and now they've thrown in a new test.
And how high was the bar? Turns out the score for promotion, advancing to 4th grade, was set below the mark that defines a proficient reader.
They're different scores, and here's why. This is a very, very hard policy. Parents don't want their kids retained. Schools don't want to retain them. It's expensive to retain them, $10,000 a year. If we had set those at the exact same level, at that proficient level, which is, of course, where we want kids to be, this policy would have been dead within a year.
I don't think that that little window of promotable versus proficient is really anything to discuss, because it's too close. It's like 3 questions.
To hiss it, the lower pass score is a good thing because it gives students a cushion, which makes sense, she says, when the test is high stakes.
It's an isolated day. Who knows what happened the night before? Who knows if they had sleep? Who knows if they even ate dinner? So yes, if they've got the basic skills and they can at least get it close, it's that little shadow of a doubt, that's fine with me.
But a big shadow of doubt still hangs over Ohio's 96% pass rate. A close look at test documents reveals more on just how low the bar was set. Ohio will promote 3rd graders, even if they lag behind 85% of their peers nationwide.
Aren't you just setting those kids up for failure?
No, I think they're getting help because we have focused this attention on reading, and the teachers are aware.
That to me, now this is just my opinion, that to me would be a state issue, wanting to make it look like, the kids are doing better.
Well, if they want to take that attitude, fine. But what we're trying to do here is so terribly important. It's important that we do it right and not try to do it all at once. That only invites failure.
Ohio is on track to slowly raise the score for promotion until it matches the score for proficient. At the higher mark, Ohio 3rd graders will still lag behind roughly 75% of their peers nationwide. In Cincinnati, Ohio, I'm John Tulenko, reporting for the NewsHour.
Now you see why the goal of the state is not our goal. The goal of the state is a baseline that says that's how you start. Now, this is the superintendent's attitude. The state of Ohio might lag nationally, but we're not going to. Because we're going to push the envelope and make it right for children and not use the baseline data that says now you're ready for 4th grade. And if you crawl into 4th grade like many children have across the state, we're going to give you some support so now you walk into 5th grade and you're prepared for 6th grade. And then further down the road, you're prepared for college because of the entrance criteria that we're setting as it relates to ACT. The ACT is an indicator that doesn't start when you get to high school. It's an indicator that starts when you're in elementary school. That's the challenge. So, down the road, we look at our assessment scores, and at the end of our assessment, 96% of our students made it. I'm not satisfied until 100% of our students make it, but not at a basic level, at a proficient level or higher. And the good thing about it, all of the teachers are part of the challenge. They're interested, they're invested, because now we have something that will help them get children there. You've seen this before, and if you have a child in college or a child ready to enter college, they're not taking you with them. They are there alone. We find that a lot of our children make it to the college door, but they don't get the degree. There's agency. There's the tenacity of working. It's about resiliency. It's about failure. It's about opportunities. It's about challenges. So, the mindset, meeting benchmarks, seeking feedback, tackling challenging learning, actively participating, building and engaging, impacting others. I need a volunteer with a strong spirit. And I'm not going to put you on camera, but I need a strong volunteer. When did you know as a parent that the math that your child was learning was too much for you to help them? When did you notice that? The first day of, was it 5th grade? Was it 6th? How many of you are able to help your child with calculus? Just easy, like you know how to do it, other than Mr. Denny and Dr. Ragley. Okay, so Miss Wilson, no. We've worked with you before, dear. We know the challenges. Now anything from the legal briefing of reading and literacy, she has us. The mathematical calculations, we leave to Mr. Seymour. All right. If we did it right, that wouldn't be a struggle. And so we're going to set up something called Student-Led Conferences, where parents and children get a chance to talk about what the challenges are and how do I overcome those challenges, so that we can be a more united, educated community. We also have another opportunity, ISSN. It's going to investigate the world, recognize perspectives, communicating ideas, and taking action. We're very, very excited about that next leap because guess what? Our children are not just competing with the children from Sycamore and Princeton and Talawanda. They're talking about children all over the world. Thank you, Mr. Denny. New Tech Network. Nationwide with schools. There's a report out. If you get a chance, look up the New Tech Network. We're part of the New Tech Initiative. And their scores are absolutely, which we're part of it, so it's our scores, are actually exceeding the national average. And one of the things that the New Tech Network does really brag about is how it's working with African American males. We do have African American males in our system. And realistically, if you look across the board, they struggle. They struggle, higher suspensions, higher expulsions, lower graduation rate. We've seen it all. So we're going to something that's going to be a challenge, not just for children of color, but for every child in our district. Students will have the opportunity now to have, in the high school, the Chromebooks. So if the polar vortex shows up again, which it will, the minus 15 degrees, we already have our educational strategies in front of us. See, at the end of the term, at the end of the quarter, at the end of the semester, no one cares if the snow came or how cold it was, you still take the same test. So it's our responsibility to get our children acclimated, to put them in front of a test that they are prepared to take. Our athletic department. Remember I mentioned earlier about the state and setting the bar very, very low. The state does not want to interfere. They want to set the standards, and then once they set the standards, they move out of the way to say, you can grow your system any way you want. In order to be eligible academically based on state standards, acceptable. So the first time you met me, we were talking about raising the GPA for students that participate in athletics. And I'm happy to announce that for this year, it's going to be a 2.0. And then next year, it will be a 2.5. And we'll keep growing it and growing it and growing it until, guess what? If you're having the success of getting a 27 on the ACT, and you have a 3.2 GPA, are you going somewhere after that? Yes. That's our growth target. That's our mindset. We're not going to set these targets low where people meet them. We're going to set the targets in a way where we exceed them and there are challenges along the way. Anything else is disrespectful to the entire community. It's disrespectful to the entire community. If you read Education Week, there's a school district in South Bend, Indiana, and they are lowering the GPA for students to participate in athletics. It's a 1.6 for freshmen, 1.7, 1.8, and it's a 2.0 for seniors. That's never going to be us. because I think it's moving the process backwards. And the sad part about it, it's in a city where you have a major university. What university's in South Bend? Notre Dame. So I don't know how happy they are with it, but we don't want that challenge. We want something a little bit more direct. The other good news, the board adopted and voted on a waiver that says if I participate in athletics or an event for 2 consecutive years successfully, I get the education waiver for physical education. If I'm participating in football, if I'm participating in band, why do I need phys ed? My practice is longer than the phys ed course. So we didn't just take kids out of the courses for the sake of doing it. We took them out of the phys ed course because they've already met the requirements so they can take more challenging courses that prepare them for college. Was that the right thing to do? We also have a great opportunity. How many of you know where New Soul Glassworks is? It's behind the Krogers. One day, a Winton Woods angel came to my door, knocked on the door, and said, Superintendent Smith, here's an opportunity. We want 15 of your most challenging students, and we want to teach them the art of glassblowing. And in turn, after their year experience, we want the 15 to teach it to your gifted students, which are the most incredible students in your district. It was their idea. We embraced it. How many times has a struggling child been able to teach the high-achieving child? Doesn't. Is that a self-esteem booster? And again, we did some further research. You can get a scholarship in glassblowing. So, I don't want to challenge the room, but how many of you have a glassblowing degree? How many of you have a glass-blown object in your house that you paid for? Okay. The other great thing, the New Soul company said, anything that the child makes in our glass-blowing experience, we will put it up for sale and we will give them 50% of what they make. So I can see the 6'7" statue of me in front of a high school, a big glass-blown thing. I am 6'7" in my own world. All right, keep that in mind. That wasn't a joke. We're adding 3 opportunities in the future. Lacrosse, it's already in our phys ed program. We're adding rowing, and we want hockey. Anybody have an idea why we want that? Scholarships. There are almost 700, the universities are looking for 700 girls for rowing. They can't find enough. And we found a great guy who says, I will teach them how to row. I'm part of the Xavier University rowing team. We also found a teacher, well, Mr. Martin found the teacher. I think he was asking questions. Come on in to the interview. Do you know how to row? You do? Come on in. Now, can you imagine everybody sitting in their comfortable chairs on the banks down by the lake watching the team row? Can you imagine at scholarship night, students are walking across the stage receiving scholarship opportunities in rowing from Stanford, Clemson, Harvard. Now you believe that statue of me is going to be real. The ideas that we put in front of our children, remember, we're the people who put the limits on them. They don't limit themselves. We place the limits. So any idea why we're choosing lacrosse? More scholarships are given in lacrosse than any other sport. So think about the districts that surround us that are our competition, that outwork us. They have some things that we don't have. In order to really refresh our kids and give them opportunities, we need to put these things in place. We had a great opportunity with some great gentlemen this summer at Parkey's Farm because they're going to teach us the art of fly fishing. And I know you're saying, superintendent's lost his mind. No. One of the girls in the fly fishing experience said something to me that was the most compelling piece of anything I'd heard that day. This fishing experience gives me peace and silence so that I can think. She said, I don't really care about catching the fish. I care about the opportunity, about patience. How many of us lack patience? And if you ever came to one of our executive team meetings, you will find I'm the most patient guy you will ever meet. So here's our cylinder. Here's our closed-knit operation. And if you notice, we didn't leave anyone out. But look at the center. Are we saying that students are responsible for this as well? Yes, the students are responsible for their success. Parents, students, board, support staff, teachers, community, everyone is important part of this process. It is circular in nature because that's where you don't break the gaps. And if everybody really united with this process, we would be able to take our kids in a place that they've never, ever been before. Guess what? Look back at our invitation. That's China. Giving them that experience, that's a Chinese experience. Because otherwise, they wouldn't know what the rest of the world looks like. Yeah, it took 15 hours to get there. But the reward at the end was so great that, guess what? The children talked about it for weeks and weeks and weeks. And they thanked the board, and they thanked their teachers, and they thanked their administrators. Thank you for believing in us enough to send us to this experience. So, our new educational framework is centered around not just what our children are doing, but what are our teachers doing? And when it doesn't work, what do we plan to do with it? The framework is absolutely online, so you can look at it. We're using it right now. We're using it with integrity, where we're not pulling out bits and parts of educational experiences. We're saying, well, you need the whole experience. Our teachers are saying, superintendent, administration, board, we're willing to do the work. Just show us what you want us to do. Well, the framework guides that work. It creates scope and sequence, instructional minutes, lesson plan template. It stops this from happening. Teacher A is on fire, making everything happen. Parents get wind of Teacher A and say, I want my child to go to Teacher A. Teacher B is lagging along, trying to catch up. Parents don't want their child in Teacher B's class. So it's our responsibility with the framework, all the classes will be A classes. So it doesn't matter what teacher you have, because having a Winton Woods experience would guarantee you a level of success. We also have the framework connected to formative instructional practices, visible learning, shifts in standards, and research-based instructional strategies and intervention. We have the same opportunity for mathematics. Because let's face it, if you can read and you can calculate and you can solve problems, will you be employed? Will you go to college? Will you get a degree hanging on your wall? That's our goal. There's another challenge where we want to improve our communication with all of our families. So, the school year, events, updates will be sent on every Friday from school principals. They will let you know what's happening in their building. Why? So that you can participate, so that you can attend, so you can be part of the process. That's the goal. So we're changing the conversation at Winton Woods, raising standards to ensure that all of our students achieve their highest potential together for every student, in every seat, in every school, every day. It's not optional. We know that the potential for each of our students is incredible. People may forget what you tell them, but they will not forget what you help them understand through visible action. And that's our job. That's our goal. That's our mission. You see these three? Could you really deny them the opportunity that they deserve? Those are my daughters. Not really. They really are, but they don't go home with me. So I invite you Wednesday, May 4th, 6:30 to 7:30. And now we have a few minutes for question and answer. The executive team challenged me that this couldn't happen in the time frame, and they are an incredible team. I love them dearly. To every parent that came out tonight, I needed to thank you. Thank you for trusting us, and thank you for sending your child to Winton Woods. We appreciate you very much. Thank you.
I just wanted to ask, just in general, I know that the goal is to get every kid prepared for college.
Yes, sir.
So the job market is changing.
Yes, sir.
And we have the manufacturing is starting to come back. We have a lot of kids that are college prep, but they don't know what a wrench is.
Yes, sir.
To help us build, they don't know what a tape measure is. And so when we go and send them out to various jobs, and the employers say, Ron, at a 3.7, when I look at your resume, go to the toolbox, give me an Allen wrench. You know what that kid does?
Okay.
And so I was just saying, I understand everything is college prep.
College and careers.
Aspect would be, would you consider trying to incorporate more of the things that's going to help us in the manufacturing area, because there's a substantial gap, and you know, maybe not 100% of every kid that graduates wants to go to college like immediately.
Yes, sir.
So what happens is when go back to the 70s, we would work at these terrible jobs at McDonald's, and then we say, I don't want to live like this. I now have the incentive to go back to school because I now taste what now that I have the degree. And my question was, can we incorporate more of that in, I think you called it something about learning, project-based learning.
Yes, sir. All right, good question. Ooh, that's blinding. That's a good question, Mr. Johnson. One of the pieces that we need to connect, he's right, every child is not going to go to college. Some children don't have the energy, the need. They are good at other things. One of the pieces that we need to connect with is the project-based learning does connect you with real-world experiences, and that's a very good point. But the other piece that we have to understand is that it's about college and careers. You may not need college, but you will need a career. And some of those things work hand in hand. One of the things that our students struggle with more so than academics is interpersonal communication. How do they communicate with each other? Stand on any street, in any place, in any community, and you hear things that I don't understand what that means. And for the real secretive parents in the room, who's ever tried to understand a text message that your child was sending, it's coded in a way you don't get it. They understand it. So, Mr. Johnson, back to your point, we will explore that, because one of the things that we're doing, and we're going to keep doing it, we're going to prepare kids for college and careers so they can have some options. When they have the McDonald's job and they say, I don't want that experience, I can land on my feet that says, you prepared me for something else, and now I'm choosing something different. Okay?
Just a suggestion. I was going to say I didn't hear the term career, and then I want would suggest, and I've done this before, not this place, another room, but at this school.
Okay.
Post-high school learning or education. Instead of always saying go to college, prepare for post-high school.
Very good point. Yes. Okay, so did you hear the question and the answer? She gave me a question and she answered it at the same time. Post opportunities for children. Because there is another place out there that need workers. How many of you have a plumber that is always charging you like strange amounts? How many of you know a lawyer? Well, my plumber makes more than my lawyer. All right? So when I'm working with him, Mr. Johnson, and he says, give me the Allen wrench, I hand it to him as quickly as I can because I'm trying to cut down on that cost. And I know what every tool is in that toolbox. I can't use them, but I know how to give them to him. So, thank you. Yes, sir.
I got a quick question. So first of all, thanks for taking the time to showcase what's happening with this. What I like about here is the fact that they're using platforms and partnerships and concepts to start to move forward. Those things are great. I guess I have a two-part question. One, you share the same view. I like the way that you were talking about being aspirational and shooting for the top.
Yes, sir.
One saying says that you have people aim for a mountain, if they miss, they fall to the bottom of the mountain. But if they aim for the sky, if they miss, they fall to the top of the mountain. And so one of the things I would like to encourage you to do is that you're talking about some of the verbiage. I would like to see that the ACT goal not be 22 when our colleges are at 725. Why not push it 25 and maybe 7 on 22 so that we can increase the broader acceptance of the students going to college. So I definitely want to challenge you to push it as far as you can.
Yes, sir.
Aim for the sky and aim down the mountain. The second question I have though is the platforms you're talking about, the concepts you're talking about are very interesting ones, like new tech and some other things like that. And I know that the school report card doesn't come out until 2016. I guess what are you looking at in terms of indicators, in terms of whether or not how well these platforms are working specifically in the district?
Okay, good point. Thank you. First part, when you start out, it gets like this. First part, we have data that supports new tech and ISSN that shows that there's a growth target and we are hitting indicators where we've never hit those indicators before. So we do have compelling data that does show where we are and where we're going. That's why we're selecting it. It would be very, very difficult to take a whole district and push them into that event at one time without having some real facts to support it. That's dangerous. So we started in small increments. We see that there are some very, very incredible results. So we decided that we would not allow our children to wait longer to be part of that experience. So we can share that data with anyone who's interested. All right. And on the second part, the ACT, the 25, good point. Thank you for being one of our ACT volunteers. You just volunteered. When you raise the score, we're going to go with you, and we're going to move the entire district in that direction. People who understand the value of education, which we all do, we just understand it at different levels and different times and different themes. Many of our parents say, I want my child to graduate from high school. Now we're putting the formula in your head, graduating with some other experiences in your toolbox that says, I am ready for college, I am prepared, I have a great ACT score, I am ready for the world of work. I have good, solid skills. My facts are very, very solid. The employer likes my interview skills, and I am a diligent worker because agency is part of my conversation. See, agency is going to happen no matter what. No matter what you do, agency is part of it, because at some point and sometime in your work experience, your employer is going to give you a task And you will have to operate that without the support of the team. They want to see how well you do it, how well you manage it from beginning to end. Anybody ever had that experience? And if you do it extremely well, what happens? The great old American way is you get more work. But that's called job security for the future. All right. I'm right on target. Yes. Ms. Franklin.
Actually, I wanted to just sort of ask, because I heard the video, and I think what I thought of when you were talking about the reading abilities of students in Ohio as compared to students in other parts of the country. And I was wondering, what are we doing that's different in Ohio that our kids are not doing as well as some others in other parts of the country? And what is it would do? Because to me that foundation is a critical part. So a third grader not being able to read is already behind.
Yes.
So what are we doing that's really pushing the reading capabilities early? I know we're having preschool, and that's critical, but are we really, what extra are we doing, or what process do we have to really improve the reading?
Thank you, Ms. Franklin. Here's the answer to the question. How many people in the room know the basic score that you need to move to the 4th grade? Most people know the score. How many of you know the highest score that you can possibly get on the assessment? That's the difference in attitude. Ms. Franklin, everybody knows the lowest score. Most people don't know the highest score. The question for me, to our community, why don't we know the highest score? Other communities and other districts that are out working us know the highest score. The highest score on the ACT, the highest score on the SAT, OGT, OAA. Tara knows that. What is the highest possible score? And to be truthful with you, when you look at agency and you look at growth mindset, our children should know the highest score. Our teachers should know the highest score. And that's what we should be shooting for. When you mentioned about the attitude, how are we preparing our children? We're preparing our children in such a way that's a very, very different way, because when they move into a situation where they're scoring the basic minimum score on an assessment, we still watch out for that child. And in some cases in Ohio, the truth remains to be told, once that child gets a 397 or 400, we're saying, you're good to go. That's not true. They're good to struggle. And we know that the struggle will continue unless we watch out for them carefully. And if you've ever had a chance to meet Senator Laner, she's a very, very nice lady who cares about education. And she knew it had to start somewhere. But it's our mission now to take it to the next level. That's not ODE's job, that's our job as a district. Thank you, and please get home safely.